Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum. My name is Citizen Strife, and this week I get to talk about one of my favorite NES games, and that being Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Or Punch-Out! Featuring Mr. Dream, if you got around to after Mike Tyson's unfortunate brush with prison time. But it's well known as Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, so that's what it'll be called. But yes, the Punch-Out franchise is great. It's its own interesting beast in terms of boxing games. Because it's not even mostly a boxing game. It's a memorization and kind of a rhythm game in a way. It's trial and error, so to speak. And I grew up playing this a lot. And I would usually get around to Soda Popinski or maybe even Don Flamenco and then getting screwed over by Sandman so much. I've technically beaten this game one time in my life because I used save states. I have never beaten Tyson legit. And I've played this so much or rewatched it via streams or YouTube stuff, I know it by heart. But playing it is a different story because it requires hand speed. And if there's something that I don't have anymore or didn't even have as a kid, it's hand speed. Because you can mentally kind of just get used to it, but then you're just kind of like, oh no. This game prides itself on being very difficult and making every opponent, in most cases, more difficult than the last. And I saw this bear itself out when I was watching the footage back yesterday. I did a trial run just to get me back to it so I could just speak on things with a little more clarity. Because I play Super Punch-Out primarily because I'm a little more used to that game. Just the design of it more. The Wii Punch-Out game I'll get to on its own terms as well as, on its own review. Same. But for now, this is the one. Zelda, Mario, not even Final Fantasy. I don't think I played Final Fantasy in the NES era. I remember this game. I remember Mario. I remember Zelda 1. I remember this game. And primarily it was this one that I would always play. That and Duck Hunt, because you can't really get away from Duck Hunt, but whatever. But Punch-Out was my thing. At least back as far as I can remember. Because I think we got our NES around 1989, 1990, somewhere around there. Before we got the Super NES and then Super Mario and, Link to the Past. Those were the big ones for me early on. But Punch-Out holds a place because the way all of the boxers are unique. The setup is fairly simple. You're Little Mac. You're very small. I mean, almost comically so. If you think that the sprites versus the giant monsters in Final Fantasy games are any indication, like Final Fantasy 4 through 6, the monster sprites are fucking gigantic and you're just small. Think of that, or even Octopath, where they make them gigantic. Same idea here. The enemy boxer sprites, the opponents, are so goddamn big, and Mac is so goddamn small. But what that does do is that gives you more real estate to work around, because you get to know what their tendencies are. In the Super Punch-Out games and then the ones in the arcade, you have to always have this kind of wireframe character look, and it messes with your perspective because you can't see as well. In Punch-Out 1, Mike Tyson's, you're able to see the enemy attack you because they're above you, and their character are almost always above you, other than maybe their feet. And you're not going to need to be looking at their feet mostly. You're going to be looking at their hands or looking at their heads or looking at their arms for their tells. So while what I feel is an interesting look, the amount of real estate you're given doesn't make sense because a lot of real estate in the game space is wasted. And I hate saying that about a game that I like so much, but there is a lot of wasted real estate because of the 70% of the ring is taken up by space. and then there's the crowd in the back, and then there's referee Mario. But the space you actually occupy as Little Mac and the opponent are very small. So even like that's the thing. Like I like the way Super Punch-Out does it, or even Wii does it, because you're dead center. You see the opponent, they look gigantic, they take up space. So it's a bit of a dichotomy. You get a little more leeway in your game here because you see more of their actions, but it feels like they're taking up way less space than they need to be, if that makes any sense. So that would be one of the few criticisms I have about this game. If I was to criticize the game about being super hard, then I'm being dumb, and that's not what I'm going to do. Because just because I can't beat a game legit doesn't mean I'm, going to whine about it. This game is not unfair. It just requires a certain commitment if you're willing to put in the effort. But as far as dealing with the game, how do you deal with it? Well, you have to manage to knock out, or technically knock out in most cases for the higher level guys, opponents. So usually knocking them down 3 times in a specific round. A way to do that in general is to get their tells and figuring out how to get star punches through specific means, and then just beating the shit out of them, or finding spots where you can do multiple combos. And some give a lot more combos than others. And later on, a lot of these guys just have such damaging punches. A lot of it ends up becoming block the fuck, or dodge the fuck, or duck the fuck out of the way, and hoping and praying you're fast enough to read the tells, because a lot of it isn't even that they're doing the thing. It's that they're doing the thing without even telling you. So that you're kind of anticipating to do the thing, and you make a mistake. The game is predicated on you always having mindful for what the enemy's going to throw at you, whether they have a script or not. And in most cases, they do have a script. But that doesn't mean anything because your mind is racing so fast to make sure, oh shit, I got punched. Uh-oh, I'm out of... It's like doing a rhythm game where you're just, shit, I'm back. I messed up, and now I'm messing up the next 2 things. And then you're back on track in a little bit of an area. It's like trying to perfect a song in a rhythm game, only you're getting punched in the face. That's really what this is. And by the time you figure that out, you're sometimes just on the ground. Or you're in that pink state, the exhausted state, where you can't do anything because you're trying to guard stuff, or you're missing punches. So you spend a lot of time trying to figure out the tells. And even figuring out the tells, you still have to keep your mind straight about what's going on. So, what are these opponents? How are you dealing with it? Well, you and your trainer Doc Lewis go about your business. I do wish that Punch-Out had like training montages other than the one with as cool as it is, the bike scene. Like I wish they had like training modes, because in other games like the EA boxing games or whatever, you get training modes, or UFC, you get some training stuff. I get that it's trying to mimic a boxing thing, but it never feels like you as a character get any buffs. You're just kind of left to do your own thing. And if you fuck up, you fuck up. I would have preferred like, hey, here's a way to do the combos better. Here's a way to gain more strength. Here's an extra star punch or something before a fight begins. Stuff like that. Because the biking thing is cool, but it doesn't have a mechanical advantage. It's just there to show you the awesome visual and the cool song in the backdrop, which is fine. Remember, this is an early game, like in the mid NES era, so bear that in mind. But other than that, like the music is cool. Most of the new boss, like most of the boss characters, get their own themes as they enter the arena. Sometimes you fight them multiple times, But Glass Joe is your first. And Glass Joe is there just to be a punching bag, just so you know what the mechanics of the game are. Ducking, dodging, weaving, whatnot. And even Glass Joe, you don't even have to dodge him. He barely punches a few times. You can knock him in the head or knock him in the stomach all over. But really, you can just wait him out until he runs at you, and then you punch him once and he's down. It's kind of sad, but that's kind of the point. Your first real boss is Von Kaiser. His tell is the head shake, and he'll dodge underneath, and then you can punch him in the stomach. You punch him once or twice, he does like a, in his head. All you gotta do is punch him or even star punch him, and he gets knocked down. One of the cool things is each character design. There's like 4 or 5 specific character design traits. Glass Joe and Flamenco have their own look. Von Kaiser and Magic Tiger do. Popinski and Macho Man do. Everybody looks different as they're falling. They have different animations. The best one by far is the one if you punch them to the right and they go me, from side to side. It makes no absolute fucking sense, but it is cathartic to see them just do that. But Glass Joe's a joke. Von Kaiser, to an extent, is a joke. And even Piston Honda, to an extent, because his whole thing is, punching you in a couple of combos and then doing the piston rush, which up, down, up, down, up, down. But you're able to hit him in the stomach or the head before he does the thing. You can knock him out. So if you're able to do that, you can knock him down, but he's kind of slow. The first Don Flamenco fight, honestly, not that bad. Dodge him and then punch him in the face and he gets knocked down. He does it with his hands and he tries to uppercut you after he wakes up. Same thing. He's just stun locked. It's weird, So it's still easy and kind of a joke. King Hippo, less of a joke, but his mechanics are his own because he's a big fat Polynesian dude, whether that was intentional or not. I will say this as I'm going away. This series, more than any other, will hark on stereotypes way too much. And it can get it's played for laughs. Like, they'll laugh on themselves. Piston Honda as a Japanese person yelling sushi in the Wii game, it's meant for lighthearted joke. But then you have people like the Italian dude's name is Pizza Pasta, it's just stupid. The Russian guy called Soda Popinski or Vodka Drunkinski, it's meant to be lighthearted, but King Hippo being a Polynesian or Samoan fat guy, let's face it, they are technically mostly obese people in Samoa. That's not always the case, but they play on those kind of stereotypes in a kind of a jokey / mean-spirited way. So I had to take that as an aside. But anyway, King Hippo, as this giant fat guy, he will try and punch you, and you can't punch him in the face until he raises his hand, but then you punch him in the gut and you hit him once and, he falls over. And again, his animations are unique and he goes down and he's done. You don't even have to knock him out. He's just one done. He's done. Magic Tiger is where I think it starts getting harder because of his Magic Tiger bullshit. The way you go about it is that you block 4 or 5 times in the head because he does the spinny movement shit, but then you're able to knock him down after that. If you can survive that crap between the first time he does it and then in the intervening rounds, it's not so bad. But it's still problematic. Speaking of problematic, is Bald Bull. He likes to do these like chugging movements and then kind of body blows or spinning his arms and punching you in the face. They're very short movements. They're very stocky movements. He's a big dude, but he moves very stocky is the best way I would describe it. And it's tough to gauge his movements other than his body blow stuff or his uppercuts. And obviously the bald bull charge sucks because if you mistime it, you're dead. There's no way around it. You hit him in the stomach and he's done, or you get knocked out. You can kind of wait him out, and sometimes I won't even bother trying to knock him down because I don't want to risk it. I will wait him out and then get back to the normal thing. But there are sometimes the game will just say, no, you gotta knock him out or I will knock you out, and we'll get back to the normal strategy. The problem is right around this time, you have to kind of start beating enemies or they won't give you the draw, the technical draw at the end of fights. So you can't be waiting people out too long. And then the world circuit happens and it's a lot of rematches. Piston Honda, Don Flamenco, Bald Bull are faster, but they kind of operate in the same way they always did. But the unique fighters are, well, just fun. Ish. Soda Popinski does this cool, like, Ganondorf laugh. Like, ha 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 ha. You know, like, every time he's just standing there laughing. He's like this weird, lanky wrestler dude who's, like, super big, but he just has this, like, pale pink skin. It's a unique feel to it. And I know in the Wii version, they make him a lot more pale, like, a lot more tan. And they fall on the whole drinking soda or drinking, vodka or beer or whatever to gain strength and whatever. You know, he's a laugh riot. But his design is, he kind of shifts to the side when he does like body blows. He slings to the side and then does his punches. So he's moving in and out or out and in. And then his uppercuts are unique because a lot of times characters will still be looking in your direction while they're punching you. He's not. Sandman or Super Macho Man are not. They're kind of leaning to the side, you know. It's still the same mechanic. So that's the thing you got to worry about, is because it's the same mechanic, but because their design is unique, they look very different while doing it. Popinski, I've always had trouble with because his star punches and whatever are a little troublesome to really get, but you're able to knock him out if you're able to do it. But he's where it starts to get just like, get him or don't. You know, you already know Piston Honda's mechanics, you already know Bald Bull, you already know Flamenco's mechanics, but those last few people don't fuck around. They just don't. And Sandman is just about the same deal. His whole mechanic is he takes body blows a lot. But he has stronger punches than Bald Bull, despite being the same palette. You know, a bit of a different swap. As opposed to a bald Turkish guy, this guy is a black Philadelphian dude who beats the shit out of you. And his whole thing is he doesn't take a lot of hits until he tries to uppercut you, and then he'll take a bunch of body blows. You punch him in the face, and then you body blow the shit out of him. You try to knock him out that way. But he's got that, like, instantaneous, like, you see that flash, and then he uppercuts you 3 times. And if he does it, you're just bleh. And he does the same thing in Super Punch-Out as well. The difference there being he shifts his feet. He shuffles his feet as his tail rather than kind of, you know, flashing. But Sandman is doable. Super Macho Man, however, it's Soda Popinski, but worse because of his special punches. I've always hated these, and I remember when I replayed Super lately, I think it was a year ago or a year and a half ago, trying to get through Super Macho Man sucked because his Sidewinder punches are so uniquely his, it's just bullshit. Because you're supposed to dodge one of them and then you're supposed to duck the bigger one. And the only way you're supposed to tell is he does these like minor shakes for a split second, and then he will sidewind the shit out of you. And if you dodge it, you're good and you can punch it. But the second one is the problem because he does like an instant KO one where he will just spin anywhere from like 3 to 6 or 7 times. And by the time you try to figure out, like, say he's done it and you're still ducking, you miss your opening to pile on more damage because you're so afraid he's going to keep spinning and beat the fuck out of you. And the problem is he will just keep he will keep spamming the shit out of those a lot. He'll still do his normal punches, but it's just like, so again, the world circuit, they're not meant to be fun. They're meant to be, okay, we're done fucking around. You're having trouble. Deal with it. And the same thing is true for the Mike Tyson fight or the Dream fight, because I have never seen anything as ridiculous as that opening salvo of just flash uppercut for 90 seconds. And even then, like, his normal punches hit like a third or a full half of your health bar. So it's not like his normal punches don't fucking ruin you anyway. It's just you can't damage him until then. So you try to punch him early, no, forget it. And you have to beat him So his mechanics are so unique that he has the benefit of waiting you out that you don't have. So, it's that opening salvo because they'll always fully damage you. I found last time or yesterday when I was looking at the footage, you get punched later in the fight by those uppercuts, it only takes half your health. Joy. So again, you're still not able to take damage. His only real tells are him winking at you before throwing a punch. But even then, it's like you're at best, you're getting like 1 or 2 punches. You might get a star punch here and there, but you can't like special KO him. You can't knock him out, at least as far as I can tell, because you're so concerned about not fucking dying. So it's any wonder I never beat him myself outside of like waiting him out with safe states because I was a cheap ass and did that. The funny story was I remember the one time I did that, I was kind of... So yeah, the funny story was having Tyson, I decided for whatever reason, because this was my brother's birthday party back when he was like 15 or 20 or something, and I was like middle school or some shit. The friends came over, and that was like one of the only times I ever got drunk or whatever. And I'm not really into that sort of thing, so I did it for fun, I guess. And then I decided, hey, I'll play Punch-Out, and I'll just whatevs, So yes, I played Punch-Out while I was drunk once, and it went about as well as expected. But I still, again, I was more buzzed than anything else. I'm not really much of a drinker, so I functioned well enough. But getting to Tyson, I just said, I'll just save state. Because I did not care. I got to him. I'm good. I didn't need to worry about it. It's fine. Because Tyson is just one of those characters, and I'm like, yeah, at this point, I'm done. But Punch-Out really kind of exists in its own real world. There aren't a lot of games that focus on that style, where it's sort of a rhythm game, sort of a boxing game, sort of a whatever. I want to say something like Callisto Protocol has co-opted the system into its own special thing when it had enemies. I didn't play Callisto Protocol, so I'm not sure. I remember seeing parts of a Steam game somebody was playing a few weeks ago or months ago where they used the Punch-Out system, but by and large, the dodge, weave, and understanding combos and punching them to the floor kind of rhythm game mechanic is not something that's been used a lot. Punch-Out has kind of been the only one to do it. And that's why it really irks me that there's only been like 3 or 4 of them as opposed to like an ongoing like once a generation kind of vibe, because this is that sort of game that anybody can kind of get into, and easy to, hard to master sort of thing. Easy to play, hard to master kind of thing. Because it is so specific, and Punch-Out has always been kind of that go-to. Even if I can't play it, and even if me personally, like the more I try to play it now, the more tentative I would be because my hands or my head can't like go as fast as I need to get through like what my brain is thinking and what I'm reflexing versus what my fingers and hands can do. I don't think I could handle this game anymore if I tried. It's the same with when I play platformers. I'm just too tentative, and I don't make jumps that I'm supposed to, and I don't trust myself. So playing Punch-Out is not as fun as watching people play Punch-Out now, but that's a personal preference. But would I recommend Punch-Out? Obviously. It doesn't matter which game you do. And even if you just want to go back and see footage of the arcade version for what it was worth, if you play the original, play the Super Punch-Out game, or the Wii Punch-Out one, you're going to have a fun time, because you're experiencing different ways of the same formula. And again, that's why I kind of wish there were more of them, but that's just me. But Punch-Out has always been there as that, hey, I know this game by heart, or I know what it's trying to do. Let me see how I can do for half an hour, and see what happens. But that'll do it for today. And I'll see you next time. We've got Konosuba's Megumin Spinoff, Sea of Stars, Speed Grapher, other things. And then the Mega Man, Mega May videos coming up in May, so I'm staying pretty busy. Oh yeah, it's like a Dragon's review is also coming out as well, the Infinite Wealth review. So it'll be the Sea of Stars, and then Like a Dragon, and then Speed Grapher, or a mixture of those. But that'll do for me, and I'll see you next time. Mind the little edit in there. I had to do this after the fact because I recorded about 20 minutes of it, and then I didn't find out that it fucked up on me. I love tech. I hope you guys can forgive that. But anyway, that'll do for me, and I'll see you guys next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.